1, and we're live.
Suck it up, boys and girls.
Suck it up.
Like a big old malted shake.
Did you ever have a science teacher that was like, science doesn't suck, it pushes and pulls? Like, okay.
What?
We're going to argue.
Explain.
We're gonna
I have never heard that one.
Really?
Our first tangent, 20 seconds in.
Oh, yeah, right? We had a teacher that it was science and whatever, 7th grade science or something like that. And
Chromosomes and shit.
So you're in 7th grade and you suck was a very popular phrase in 2007.
So was Artard.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of anyway. And be like, "Oh, you suck." Like, and she'd always say, "Science doesn't suck, it pushes and pulls." I was like, this is semantics.
That doesn't make any sense.
See, in my head as a 7th grader, I was like, I can't describe why you're wrong right now, but I have a bad feeling about it. But she was a pretty intelligent person. I think she was just trying to get people not to say the word suck because it has the sexual connotation.
She was being like an unclever mom about it. That's essentially what I'm getting out of this.
Hey, well, anyway.
All right, suck it up.
She's dead now.
Let's oh wow. Let's chill. Black Bullets International. I shot 400 rounds of my own reloads at Area 5 this year.
How'd they do?
Completely flawless, and honestly, I didn't change my reloading setup at all from when I was reloading FMJs. So that was pretty convenient. Guys were complaining. I mean, the 5 seconds that I read of a forum when I do something new, they're saying that if you crimp them too much, you can damage the poly coat, and I don't have that much of a taper crimp on my 9s when I do FMJ, so it was completely fine. Other than that, we've got SG Ammo sent us some of the Polytech Federal stuff so we can compare it.
Polytech Federal, can you give us some insight on that?
So your typical lead-jacketed bullet, we either have an exposed lead base, which is not good for those of you who shoot indoors, or if you're lucky, you'll get a round that's actually a TMJ, so there's no exposed lead base. Now the new world order, the new world trend for competitive shooters is a Polytech coated bullet, which is actually a high-tech coating, much like a powder coat, which is what Black Bullets and a number of other manufacturers use. But for whatever reason, Federal's been pushing themselves on the commercial market more than any other manufacturer right now. Like any YouTuber with more than 100,000 subscribers is probably sponsored by Federal. But they actually tailor-made some poly-coated bullets for USPSA. So if you register the Crony once with your gun and the poly bullets, you'll never have to do it ever again because they are an official sponsor of USPSA, and every box that you buy of this ammo, some of it is given to USPSA.
What?
It's tailor. It is tailor made to meet power factor if you have a 4-inch barrel and above.
So, like you can. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. You chrono once, and
that's it.
That's it for life.
As long as you're using those? Basically, as long as you're using that ammo, you're good to chrono.
Talk about shills.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we're not sponsored by Federal. I wish we were because free ammo is awesome, but. SG Ammo sent us one of each, and one of them is a 130 grain tailor-made for PCC, and we don't have one, so I just went out and bought a high point carbine for $200 online.
No, you didn't.
I did, just so we can use this ammo.
Side note, there is one of my favorite pictures online is that barrel of that high point carbine.
With bullets stacked in it.
I think it was a 45, and there was like 17 bullets, so they just kept shooting and nothing was coming out.
Yeah. So that was something that SG Ammo sent us. But yeah, if they have a 115, a 124, a 147, and a 130 for PCCs, and if you chrono it once, which that's 9mm, they also make a 45 and a 40 cal line. The 40 cal line and 45 are going to be major power factor. The 9mm is all minor power factor. If they made a 9mm major poly coated bullet, I would hands down give them all the props in the world because that would be difficult. One thing that on the Shooter's Mindset podcast, the owner of Black Bullets International actually said that he got one of his 130 grain bullets chooching at 1,600 feet per second out of his open gun.
What?
and it didn't have any adverse effects on the bullet. Usually you'll have bullet instability and jacket separation, and you'll get polymer in your barrel. But for whatever reason, his magic blend of herbs and spices, that didn't happen.
What kind of round count are we talking? Or just one? Just enough?
I don't know how many he did. He just said that he had custom tailored a load of 9mm major to go through an open gun, and it still shot true. Which for 130 grain, I think you only need 1,300 feet per second to meet 9mm major, which is what I'm going to do once I build this poor man's open gun out of my spare Janik because reasons. So out of a 5-inch barrel,
about that.
5-inch barrel, it's going to be difficult. I think he probably did it out of a 6-inch barrel, which obviously the longer the barrel, the sweeter the juice, so you get more velocity.
I think I've said that before.
A couple times. So big thanks to our ammo sponsors, and big thanks to Diamondback for sending us cool guns to review.
Thank you very much. I'm excited. I haven't shot any poly-coated anything out of my good old Smith & Wesson. Sponsor us. And
yeah, right. I want to be the next Jerry Mitchell, please.
You're not old enough.
Well, that's one thing. He went on the Vortex Optics podcast, and what he was saying is paralleling what I'm reading in Brian Enos's book right now of mentality, and I'd love to talk about that once I get through Enos's book. But this podcast is going to be basically our first year, which, I mean, we've only been shooting about 5 months of USPSA, but our seasons are pretty much over. All the major matches are done. We're not going to nationals, obviously, because we don't have the money, nor did we reserve a slot. But our season's pretty much over. I've got the Missouri Fall Classic, and that's the last major I'm shooting this year. Just gonna have fun. I told Uncle Bugatti today, like, I didn't dry fire for a week, and it was liberating because I used to dry fire 3 to 4 days a week, about 20 minutes a day, and that was a commitment because when I dry fire, I do not dick around.
It's a lot of time to space out in the day. I mean, it's like exercising, and except I feel like straining your muscles in the gym is a little bit more rewarding than literally just dry firing over and over. I mean, because
mentally it's way more rewarding because you tune out when you lift weights. When you're dry firing, you are 100% both concentrated and focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I said it. I would rather go to the gym than dry fire, but it's super important, and it's honestly just muscle memory. You're getting those nice ruts in your brain carved out so that you don't have to think about it anymore. Because that's that is the the problem I think I had was I didn't practice enough in between stages, in between matches.
Yeah.
I didn't even expect to go to the Illinois sectionals. That was the last minute. I did okay for what, honestly, I think I did exactly where I am.
You ended up right in the middle of all production shooters. You ended up right in the middle overall, a little bit lower than
That's exactly what I thought.
And honestly, for the competition that was there and being your first major match, I mean, you held your own by every means. I royally blew up the first 2 stages. I could have been close to top 10, but royal fucked myself. But I still learned a ton from when that happened.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, stage planning, honestly, by the end of the 12 matches, like, I felt like I couldn't stage plan very well at the Spartan 300, because I
guess let's lay out a timeline first.
Okay,
so we started. I shot that one stage with Jerry Mitchell in St. Louis mid-March, and then we started training the first week of April, essentially.
Yeah.
Go ahead and lay out your gear so that everyone knows how scrub-board you are with your gear.
So I want to say that everything I own is by Blade Tech. So I had local matches, and this is probably January, December-ish area.
So that would have been January 19, December 18.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a range that I used to go to that you'd rent machine guns in Missouri, and it was awesome. And then
that range is awesome.
It is.
We did that on the Mike Papakilo YouTube channel. We went there and shot some full autos, and it was
Absolutely.
a great time.
I mean, like, traveling the country the way I used to, it's really cool because you get to go to places that have their own little niche. And anyway, so I had saw on their Facebook page that they were having like an outlaw USPSA match. No idea what it was. I went in, and that was the range that I went to shoot at, just to practice shooting because I had bought that pistol. I was trying to get better at it. So I walk in there and I tried to awkwardly start a conversation with the guy, and he explained, kind of what just basic the rules. He's like, you move around, you shoot, reload. He probably explained it better, but anyway, I walked into Tactical Shit. Don't sponsor us. And,
Get an FFL, assholes.
yeah, right. And I was like, I walked in and I said, hey, this is the gun I got. I need a holster and I need mag holsters and probably another magazine if you got it. So he gave me, it's not even attached to my belt. My mag holsters are not attached to my belt. They have like a clip, so it just kind of slides in.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. They've worked,
They still work.
They still work. But it's like a double mag holster. It
Like for a
it's
defensive,
like a retention clip.
it's
It's
like
not
a defensive pistol or like an everyday carry. It is definitely not
Exactly.
a USPSA
And
geared mag holster.
the first belt I had actually was just a belt, and I would just tighten it and then strap it around my fat body.
No inner belt whatsoever.
No inner belt whatsoever. It wasn't attached to my pants. It was just strapped around my body. And then the holster. So both these were Blade Tech, and like he had said, they're very much more carry, maybe like duty kind of mag. If you were a cop and you barely wanted to show up for work prepared, this
That
is
would
the
be
stuff
it.
you'd buy.
That's like
Nothing against Blade Tech. It's
rural
just,
county, Alabama, low
Yeah.
budget, undercover cop stuff.
I mean, I don't know. That's it. It was not suited because you want a good your holster. You should be able to basically be holding the gun in the position that you're going to be firing with your firing hand when you go to draw. Obviously, there's some setbacks, depending on how fat you are or how if it's offset, drops, anything like that. But this wasn't, and there was actually, I don't know what you call it, but it blocked a lot of. I think it was trying to block you from like touching a shirt or like an inner.
Yeah, it's an
Something.
outside the waistband defensive holster.
Exactly.
Is
So
what it is.
it's not great. I actually have the Stoger one bookmarked, but anyway, I picked that up. I bought the Smith & Wesson M&P. It's a 2.0. It's a 9mm. It's full size, which means it's
Barely.
It's technically called a full size.
It's only a 4-inch barrel, right?
4 1/4. But if you say I want an M&P full size, that's what they're going to hand you.
Right.
That's the connotation. I've looked it up a million times. It pisses me off because there is a gun that has a 5-inch barrel, which I don't know if I'd like.
I think it's the Smith & Wesson Pro.
Yeah, that's it. That's definitely it. Anyway, I bought this gun on a whim. I honestly walked into a gun shop. This is one of the only times I've walked in blind and bought something and have on I've gone from hating it to loving it to hating it, and then I really love that gun. And I'm going to stay with that for...
And it's got 10,000 rounds with very few malfunctions.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, I used to clean it after every time I go to the range. I'd shoot 150 rounds. Go to the range, shoot 150 rounds, clean it when I got home. I do that once or twice a week. And over the course of about 7 months, my groups got smaller and smaller and smaller, and I kind of got a lot more familiar with the pistol. And then I don't even know where I heard it. I just started dry firing. And I was like, this makes sense. Like, it literally makes sense in my head.
Interesting.
I had heard it, maybe it was Top Shot back, watching on History Channel, or just somewhere where someone's like, oh, you could dry fire. I'm like, that makes so much sense to me to just fire the gun without anything in it to get the muscle memory down. And so I would just sit at home watching TV with some kind of target on the wall. I'd have 2 targets to transition back and forth. And I'd dry fire. Now my grip wasn't very good and transitioning wasn't very good, but I learned to use both eyes open to shoot. I didn't know this instinctively, but I learned to focus the front sight and target focus because I would change it up without thinking about it. And to do split focus. When you explained it, I didn't understand it, and then I went back and really thought about it, and it's like, oh, I can do that now.
So you just decided one day you had a tower moment. I'm going to start dry firing.
Yeah, I just cleaned it from getting home, and I turned the TV on, and I was like, oh, I could just sit here and dry fire it. Then I did that for a whole week. I went into the range, and I swear to God, it's like a aha moment. You know, you have those.
Yeah. I've had like 8 of those this year. It's been awesome.
Yeah. So then I had done. I mean, I looked at practice score. I bet I did. And they, you know, it's outlaw matches, so they just make up whatever. They had some really fun ones, like low light matches. They turn all the lights off, and you'd walk through the stage with the lights on, and you know it was safe, but it was still kind of awesome. 2-gun matches, those are a little more along the 3-gun line, but it still had, which kind of make me angry because all you had to do was hit the target twice, so it didn't matter.
Really?
Yeah, it was two shots on target, you know, rifle first, then pistol, and it was all for time. And I remember going and people being like, you know, you're not terrible for never doing this. And then one day, you didn't go to the range with me ever, did you? You went by yourself to see Jerry.
Yeah. Yep. That was the only time I had gone because we went the day before to shoot full autos.
Gotcha.
And then the next day I went to the range STL and shot with Jerry for that charity event.
Okay, so he went and shot that. I had some USPSA matches, but nothing really official. I mean, the ROs were super cool. They expected like really new people. And I really wish a lot of ranges were more open like they were. Because, I mean, they walked me through everything. Like, hey, you know, here's the 180 rule. That's probably one of the most important rules. Don't have your finger in the trigger when you're reloading. Because, I mean, I've never drawn my gun from a holster and fired in an attempt to do it for time ever. Because no range is going to let you do that. No range is going to let you do that without you renting the whole stall out.
Right.
And I understand the sentiment, but you have to find somewhere you can do that. Now, once again, you can dry fire that. But yeah, just started out with local matches in Missouri. Any range, like, you know, if you live in a decently populated area, you can find a range within 20 minutes that will at least have a USPSA match once every month or two.
Yeah, it's a monthly thing.
I mean, some places will have it more, and the more you get into it, it's a super small community. You'll find out about stuff.
Yeah.
Because I found out about the Spartan 300 from smaller shooters, and that was an hour or two away from, probably more than that, from where I shot at Missouri. And they're like, oh yeah, I probably shot 500 rounds last year. It was tons of fun, and you know, it's a great time. And so I actually signed up for it first, which is the last time that'll happen.
Yeah, you signed up. I think you signed up the week before that Jerry shoot because they had announced it early March, and it wasn't until like late May that it happened. And then that week, I guess we could transition to my wonderful USPSA career. That week when I shot with Jerry, that one stage, I didn't see any of the sights. I'd only been shooting pistols for about 3 years. I was dog shit at it, looking back at all of our old videos. I rewatched a lot of our old videos.
I'm not on video shooting.
So bad at pistol shooting. And that one time that I shot there was 25 or 30 guys there. All of them had the USPSA gear, like the proper holsters and shit. I had a Taurus TH9, eBay mag holsters, which, to be fair, are way better than yours, but they're eBay knockoff Scorpion mag holsters, black Scorpion mag holsters.
I'd take those over mine any day.
Yeah. A crossbreed outside the waistband defensive holster for my Taurus TH9, and I smoked them all. These guys have been shooting USPSA for a year, 2, 3 years. Most of them had more than one gun on them. I was like, why do you have 4 guns? Some dude had a P320, a 2011, this, that, and the other.
The Legion, the newer one?
Not the newer one. It's not the X5, but
okay.
It was the Legion. And I smoked them all. I was like 13th out of 30. And I was just like, I didn't even see the sights. I mean, the targets were 7 yards and in. I just point shot the whole thing. And I smoked them all. I was like, this is not hard. I could do this. And then, of course, Jerry put the phrase, "You were excellent" in my brain, and that has never gotten out of my head. And that's on video. So after that, like you said, we started training the first week of April. Even that training session that we filmed, we were horrible.
When was that?
That was the first weekend in April.
Is that the one where I was tossing magazines and doing it all wrong?
Yeah, it was rainy. We're on the tarp.
Oh my. That was not that long ago.
That was not that long ago.
Wow. I feel like every time, because I think I'm super self-critical.
I mean, we're engineers, yeah.
I'm extremely self-critical, and I get too upset. I really do get too upset because I did, like, Illinois sectional, I did fine. The Spartan 300, not so much.
I was impressed at how comfortable I was with the Spartan 300, which that's all we used to shoot was steel. And somehow that's less intimidating than paper to me. So the whole day you were worried about stage plans and all this and other, and all I could do was smile at your little retarded ass. I was like, "It's okay, Uncle Bugatti. It's gonna be fine." you just run out there, shoot all of the things.
You didn't say that at the time, you dick.
And you're gonna be fine. No, I was letting you figure it out because anything I told you, like you said, it would just screw up your game plan.
That's what I've learned now is to take suggestions, but to tell everyone to fuck off once you make a decision, because there was one at your local match where I missed like 4 targets.
That you did.
And it was because I had a decent plan, you know, like maybe 75% to 80% of what it could be, perfectly fine, right? And right at the last second I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's when, you know, I'd already done the conga line. I'd already done everything else. And, but like, here's the funny thing about USPSA that really pisses me off, but it's the sport, is how much they try and hide targets from you. Like, that really
memory stages.
That it does. It's like, oh, this isn't a game in who can shoot the best. This is a game of who can put the pieces in that little board thing before it pops out.
And do it, fast.
The fastest. So in like Spartan 300, I wish I would have done the Illinois sectional first. I would have done way worse at it, obviously. But I was just like, I was making mistakes and watching myself do it, but not correcting for it because I was so worried about the par time. That honestly, that was a different animal.
Well, that's the thing. It's that one Spartan 300 is like the Pro-Am. It's not how much time and hit factor you can do. It's a set time and you get points. So that man is running after you with a knife and he is right on your ass the whole time.
There was a couple stages that were just, I mean, when you'd see someone finish it entirely and get all the steel, you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's someone that's not just competency, it's confidence.
Yep.
And so with the Illinois sectionals, when I first met everyone, you know, they all I think they all knew each other because it was, you squat up with people you know.
Well, that's the thing, is one thing that we're at a distinct disadvantage of is our peers, well, one, don't hardly shoot at all, and two, they don't have the time and money to dedicate this to this stuff. So, yeah, most of the time, A, you're going to be way more comfortable in a group of the dudes that you know, which, again, we're not going to have that luxury. And two, you're way more comfortable at your local range. I mean, that's just obvious.
Yeah, but they all knew each other, and then they were all kind of like palling around, like really dicking around with each other. So it's like, oh, they're having fun, and I'm just this weirdo sitting on the outside with a Mosin Nagant pouch on the back.
That they eventually made you take off.
They did make me take it. I mean, he was not an asshole about it, but he's like, if you can't close it, you technically have to take it off. And I'm like, you know what? I think I heard Stoger say it once. Do everything up to the point where you're not going to get harassed by ROs. Like, cool, take it off. Because you just don't need it. Especially when you got people that are... Did I just click that? I didn't click anything important. But especially when you got people that are like... There are some people... I mean, I get it. If you're going to be an RO, it sucks because you're out. Usually, you're doing it for a free match.
Right. So it's like a $130 entry fee you're doing it for.
Yeah, you're doing like $130. I mean, and so you're not really there's something tangible about, oh, at the end of this, there's going to be money in towards it when you're at work. But I think they sit out there, and then right after lunch, when the carbs kick in, and some of these older guys, and I'd say about 90% of them are just there and
Just going
pretty
through the
decent.
motions.
And then you got 5% of them that are super nice, and then you got 5% of them that are super dickweeds. Like
Yep.
the stage that was bottlenecked before lunch, that guy was an asshole about. He's like, don't put the steel up until I've come out and said steel up. And he did that the worst possible way. He'd like walk all the way to the back targets, walk all through them, then call steel up,
Right.
then come to the front targets. It's like, call steel up, get them up and painted. That takes the longest and then when you work right to whatever.
Yeah. So that's as far as dealing with ROs. That's the best thing you can do is, like you said, just you can't be confrontational because they're always right. I mean, it's like,
Oh yeah.
that's just the way it is. So going back, so we both had pistol experience, but we had no idea what we were doing. The number one learning that I've done towards this is watching Jerry Mitchell's video on drawing from a holster, then figuring out what dry fire was. And I don't necessarily know where I heard it first. I don't remember where I heard the Ben Steger podcast from, but every day this year I've listened to at least one or two of his podcasts at my desk. And that I've listened to all of them in their entirety twice now. Every single one of them. Well, not every single one, but if you go to like 250 of his old style podcasts and all of his practical shooting after dark, I've listened to all of those twice. And there's a ton of awesome information there that you would never get from a stupid Brian Eno's forum, because forums are honestly garbage. But the best thing that you can do is go find people that know what the fuck they're doing and follow them, because the first time I actually shot a match, a guy from work shoots USPSA, got me in contact with one of the guys that's a board of directors at this range, got me in with a match, and honestly, the first night I was more competent than most of the new shooters that they get because they got to watch them real close. It was one of those like, who is this asshole and why is he beating all of us kind of instances. Yeah. And it was just like, I just saw the targets and I shot them all. Like you don't have to do much thinking post the conga line. Once you get the conga line done, I don't know where I figured out what stage visualization was, except for watching it on Top Shots. Or is it Hot Shots? Hot Shots, because Top Shot is the History Channel.
Yeah. What's Hot Shots?
Hot Shots was on the Outdoor Channel or the Shooting Channel, where they followed Max Michel, which is a Triple Crown, multi-time international champion, shoots for Sig Sauer. They followed Jerry Mitchell, obviously multi-international
channel
titles. It's on YouTube right now. I rewatched it this year. So I rewatched it in like April this year. Some weird archer dude and an exhibition shotgun shooter, and then they eventually worked Casey Eusebio in, which he's also a speed shooter, USPSA, Steel Challenge, and a couple other guys. But I'd watch Jerry and Lena. They were at the International Shotgun Shooting Championship, and Lena was sitting there with her eyes closed, air gunning. I'm like, well, she's meditating over the stage. Like, she's walking through the whole stage and shooting all the targets in her mind. So she was doing a stage visualization. And then eventually I heard it on Steger's podcast. I was like, huh. And then today when I was reading Brian Enos's book, he says it's not meditating, you're concentrating, right? So he breaks down the difference. The dude is, like I said, he's a Sun Tzu. He's a philosopher of practical shooting. But he was breaking down the difference between concentration and focus. And the way he breaks it down is concentration is mentally focusing on something, which is stage visualization. That's concentration. Meditation is actually when you're on the line and shooting. So you go from your trance that you put yourself in, full mental concentration, to an adaptive focal environment. You're acquiring targets. You're not sitting static on a static range shooting bullseye anymore. You already know what you're going to do. Now you're adapting to your environment. You're focusing on what's going on. You're passively mentally there. You're fully physically there. So you've got a stage plan, and now you just have to do it. and he breaks down all the little mental idiosyncrasies of doing that, which the dude's only been a silver medalist in anything he's done. So it's, I mean, you have to take anything anyone says with a grain of salt, but without really trying to break down that mental process into pieces, that's kind of what I do. I'll go through the conga line, I'll count my rounds, and I'll mentally count my rounds by walking through the stage mentally, not looking at it. If I forget a target, I'll have to go back and look at it, or when I'm pasting, I'll note it. God forbid you're the first shooter on the line, in which case, good luck. But I'll go through, I'll count the rounds, I'll go through the conga line, I'll mentally visualize the stage within the 5 minutes, and then when I'm not shooting or pasting, every shooter that goes up, I'll do a mental walkthrough. Because by the time 3 or 4 shooters, or God forbid, I'm at the bottom of the line, which is the worst, being the last shooter.
The absolute worst position to be in.
Being the last shooter sucks, because after 2 or 3 shooters, if you forget to do a mental walkthrough, I've already lost it. So every time a shooter goes, whenever that buzzer goes off, I don't watch anybody shoot. I'm mentally walking through the stage every time that buzzer goes off. I'm setting the cadence of when I'm shooting. I'm setting a cadence of my splits. So if a target's at 6 yards, you bet your ass I'm dropping a 16 split. If it's at 25 yards, I'm probably rocking a half-second split. And I mentally engage that every single target. Because if I don't, and I get up to the line and I have to break my focus and start concentrating, that's when you've lost. I did that last night at our Thursday night practice. I went to drop the magazine. And I was using the SFT instead of the SF, the one with the threaded barrel. I sent the SF back because the magazines weren't dropping. Well, the SFT is having the same issue now. I went to drop the magazine, I went to insert a magazine, and it bumped the empty mag. So my focus was gone. My concentration was, get the fucking magazine out of the gun. So remedial action, got around in, went back to engage the targets. I'd moved too far forward. My entire concentration had taken over, and I was lost. So my focus was broken at that point in time. So I have to figure out how to train to break my focus, get concentrated, and get back on that focus train. You know what I'm saying? So that was probably the biggest thing. Shooting is the easy part. In my mind, which for me and my giant ape hands, I have to find a fucking gun that fits them, because I will yank low left all day on 15-yard targets because the second shot I try and split too fast. But the hardest part of competitive shooting is becoming the master of your own mind and actually being able to break down a 32 friggin' round field course to the point that you know the splits on the target you're going to engage, you know the transitions you're going to do, you know exactly the spot you're going to run to, and not slow yourself down because you break your focus and start concentrating. That is going to be the golden nugget of me in this podcast right now, because before I figured out that, I was concentrating and shooting deliberately. If you watch my club match videos on the mpk USPSA channel, at the beginning of the video, I'll do a verbal regurgitation of my thoughts on the stage. And there for about 5 club matches, I was deliberate. I put that in every single one. I'm shooting deliberately. I don't know why I'm going so slow. I don't understand why I can't shoot fast. And eventually it just clicked. Like, you can't think while you're shooting. You have to do your thinking in that meditative state and then just perform. You cannot think when you're shooting because you will just go slow.
You've said this, but in terrible words to me before, and that's probably the best way you've described it ever.
I haven't put it together until basically right now when I read it through in Enos' book.
Because
Enos was able to put it in words I couldn't explain.
you'll scream things down my neck and be like, you gotta do the thing. And then I'm
Just
like,
well, that's my favorite quote. I want to make a t-shirt and put Ben Steger Pro Shop on the back. That's I've been meaning to email him about this. I want to make a shirt dedicated to Ben Steger that has the quote, just when you're shooting, I think he says, just shoot all the targets, or it's like engage all the things and shoot all the targets.
Fast. Like, shoot all the targets, don't miss, do it fast, or something like that.
I need to find his podcast that he says that, because I want that exact quote on a t-shirt, because literally by the time you're on the line and they say make ready, you should be done thinking.
See, what I would do, and that makes a lot more sense, because that's honestly where I'm probably getting held up at, is shooting so deliberately.
Yeah, that's where you're at. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have this, like I said, I didn't have this tower moment until like right before Area 5, and then I dicked myself by getting bumped to open, and I was pretty much done after that. Which I still beat 20-some open people, and I put my overall score next to all the production shooters. I would have been 25th out of 60, and there was some stiff competition for production.
Fat people shoot open.
Well, that's the thing. That's after I realized that, I'm like, well, you don't really have to be good to shoot open. But there were A-class open shooters that shot way worse than me, and I didn't understand why. I mean, not like one or two. Like half of the people I beat were A and B.
Do they compensate
classifiers? Yes.
Classifiers for state?
Oh, yeah. Open classifiers are much more difficult than production. I mean, depends on the classifier, too. Like, the Riverdale standards, no one shoots their classification at. TikTok, no one shoots their classification at. It just depends on... That's why it's easy to get to be a GM, because if you go to a classifier match that the range master has basically tuned to help you increase your class, you can get GM by being a crappy B-class shooter.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But to go back to this meditative versus concentrative state, because what I was doing was I wouldn't immediately jump in the conga line. I would walk kind of a little bit ways behind it and then kind of count all the targets, all the rounds I was going to do. And then I first had to get the reloads in. And then when I figured out, okay, this is where I'm going to reload between shots, then I would run through it. I would physically walk through what I was going to do, a couple times, and even, purposely mimicking the reloading. And then I would watch.
Doing your classic ninja dodge.
Yes, that we'll have to.
That was my nougat from the last podcast that we did. Was like, you're like, if I do a static reload when I'm in a gunfight with someone and I dodge a bullet, I'm going to call you immediately afterwards and tell you to fuck off.
Did I say that?
Yeah. I was like, yes, you're going to be in a gunfight doing a static reload, standing up like an asshole.
Well, I'm going to reiterate that and say fuck you, just preemptively. But if that ever happened, I would start teaching like a what is that, dude? Voda tactical.
Oh, Christ.
Anyway, so I would
the fuck off that tangent.
I would do all this. What I said, walk through, because what I am most worried about is stage planning is completely missing a target, and so that was what I think that if you could like summarize my Illinois sectional, it would be don't miss a damn target.
Yeah,
intentionally, because there were targets that I missed because I shot at them too much, like steel targets, or I engaged them. But there was one that was like 30 yards away, and I must have, for some reason, I had earlier on in my career, I would start off good and then sink down, and now it's getting to the point where I start off terrible and I slowly get up to somewhat competent, and then it dips back down, and it's a little bit. But anyway. So I was so worried about missing a target that I was like, and like I said, they hide targets from you. They specifically are like, unless you are
standing in this very specific spot,
you can't see it. I completely understand it. And this is why cops hate this sport, because they're like, that's not realistic. Like, yeah, it's a sport. Fuck you.
Also, you really think a perp is going to stand up not out in the open to shoot at you? Like,
no,
I know they're dumb, but I don't think they're that dumb.
I hate cops talk. Like, I hate it when
cops shoot USPSA, I giggle. That's all I have to say.
They're not very good. I saw a guy break 180 because he was pointing his AR as a 2-gun. He's pointing his AR at the ground and had turned full 180. Because in cop language, that's fine, because you're pointing at the ground, but that's a 360 environment with targets that shoot back. So I completely understand why, but I think they gave it. They're like, listen, in any other match we would have probably DQ'd you right there, but this is 2-gun and it's fucking Wild West out here. So, but and he was he wasn't like ignorant, like that makes you angry. He was like truly like, what do you mean? What I do wrong? And they're like, you broke the 180. He's like, but I was pointing at the ground. He's like, we don't want you to point at the ground either. We want you to point it downrange at the berm. Like, right. This isn't like clearing houses. Anyway, cops hate this sport. Like crusty old cops hate this sport because it's not. This isn't a reactive sport. this is an active sport. This is not assessing threats and everything.
Right.
You are, like he said, you're walking through. So I would walk through and make sure that I was going to engage every single target. And there was one stage where there's a bunch of wedges, and you had to stop and shoot it basically 2 different targets and steal from each portions of these wedges.
That was a brutal memory stage.
It was literally like playing memory. And so I would go through it. I would never watch anyone else doing the conga line. That always makes me angry. And it makes me angry too if you're taking forever. But then I would back off and I would do that kind of mental, okay, here. And then I would watch everyone go, and I would have that, like, you know when you play video games and they have that ghost that's like your best score in like a racing game, and it's like a shadow car. I would watch them go and be like, that's not what I would do. That's not what I planned. That's not what I planned. And now that I think about it, I think that's a terrible way to look at it, because you're assuming that the stuff that they're doing that you were planning on doing, you're going to do successfully. And you need to, like you had said, you need to stick with your plan. Like, this is my walkthrough. This is what I'm going to do. And then have that, like, watch them objectively. Watch maybe how they're doing their reloads or their footwork, or, hey, that's slippery down there. Watch that.
Right.
Watch the feedback they give on stuff. That's always nice. But like you had said, God forbid you're the first shooter, but I think 3rd or 4th is usually right about where I want to be.
4th is a very happy place for me.
Because if you're the last person, especially like 12 people, it sucks.
Yeah.
Because it like at the end of both of those matches, I was dog tired. Like, I was in a weird mental state after all of those, and I drove home after one of them. Like, we drove from at least 4 or 5 hours. And I was just in this haze because, and when I look back at it now, is, first of all, a Spartan 300, we were baking in the sun.
That was a toasty day.
That was toasty. And that was before I had sunglasses, which I got some prescription sunglasses. They're pretty awesome. But that's something I'm going to definitely work on. And actually, I might try and come to those Thursday matches. I don't know why. If I talk to my boss, he would be upset because, I mean, how long does it take? 2 hours?
It's closer to 2.5.
Fuck it. But
by the time you get back, it's closer to 2.5.
2.5.
But you could show up right as we start and leave without packing up, and no one's going to be heartbroken.
I mean, pay my money anyway.
Exactly.
Because I think I need to take a break just for money reasons, and kind of. I mean, we're kind of coming up on a break. Well, there's a match that we're gonna do in 2 weeks, a week, basically.
Yeah.
Do you have one this week?
And yeah,
Sunday. Okay.
Anyway, so
that's what I'm working on.
From the Spartan 300, after that, I shot the Thursday night practice nights are nice. I probably shot 10 or 11 of those.
Oh, geez, I didn't think about that.
Those are
That's
nice.
super nice.
They're very nice.
Low round counts, too.
I've shot
3
probably
stages.
5 or 6 full club matches. And then the Illinois sectional. I've shot 6 because I've got 6 classifiers in. So I went from, at the beginning of the year, after shooting the Jerry thing, a garbage C-class shooter to a decent B-class shooter. My last 2 classifications were A, very easily. And I placed right below 50% at an area match of some really competitive production shooters. I was paired with a lot of production shooters. Like, over half my squad was production, the other half was limited. And 4 of them were from the Marine Corps shooting team. They all beat me. They're all A and B class guys. They've been shooting for about 2 years. Another A class guy that I had actually ended up beating. And then there were 4 GMs that were there. 3 of them were in the top 3. One of them was like 16th. a ton of M-class guys. Good God, there's a lot of M-class guys. A couple A's sprinkled in, and the bottom list were all B, C, and D class shooters. But it was some really stiff competition, and those, I don't know if you've watched that video of Area 5. They were 32-round field courses, but they were clever. Like, they were very, very fun.
I did watch, because it's like a 14-minute video. You just compiled all your stages together. They were like, it was a puzzle piece.
Yeah, it was a very good. And that was the best thing about it, because the Illinois sectional, neither of us walked the stages before, which was just an absolute amateur move on our part. Being able to be there and walk the stages the day before, those were the most difficult mental stages I've ever done. They were easy. They were super easy, having the chance to walk them the day before and get a stage plan down.
No one's there. Like, it's the end of the day, so you can just walk around and like get. So is that something that is, I don't want to say encouraged?
It's definitely not frowned upon.
Okay,
because I mean, like all the national I had the pleasure of meeting No Skills Nils. He's one of the Canik sponsored shooters. He shoots carry optics. I had the pleasure of walking some stages with that guy. He's, oh God, I don't know how many area and section matches he's won, but over his 10-year shooting career, I bet he's won at least 8 area matches in different divisions.
Oh, geez.
Like L10 production, limited. He shot them all, and now he's shooting carry optics because he's bored. And like I said, he's sponsored by Canik. And super nice dude. Walked stages with him. He educated me on some stuff and some stuff about my gun. And it was a great learning experience being able to walk stages the day before, much less with a grandmaster who's a multi-time area champion.
Yeah, right. Like that. I mean, that's a good point. I was burnt out the Saturday before Illinois sectionals. Like, I don't know. I had put in my head how much I had to drive that day, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going home. Because I have world-class mag holsters.
That you had way too tight.
Yeah, I didn't even. And I said, "Hey, we should adjust these." Never did. And you know what? You know what's funny is I'll. It's super weird to dry fire and to reload at home, because I'll reload and be like, "Man, I grabbed that on my knuckle and kind of hurt my finger." In a match, I've never thought about that before.
That's the one weird thing about dry fire that I wanted to talk about is I rarely mess up a reload in live fire when I'm on the line. At the area 5, I think I messed up 2 reloads, and that was because I was moving and reloading at like full speed, which I haven't done much of, especially since I shoot indoors, and indoor matches you never get the full speed.
Your heart rate never gets that high.
No. So that's just something with experience. But when I put a part-time on my buzzer and do reloads, I fuck up like 80% of the time pushing to get that time. And then when I do it in a match, it's just like, oh, wow, the mag well's right there. Just kind of throw the mag in the general direction, and it's in.
I bet it's, well, I think it's just keeping the blade sharp. You know, when you really push yourself, then you back that off like to 75%, and you're like, oh, shit, this is not that bad.
Because that's what it is dry fire, you're pushing yourself. Dry fire is like doing drills in any martial art. You are just doing it over and over and over again, actually concentrating on what you're doing. You're not just in the focus meditation routine of a live fire match. You are fully concentrated on what you're doing and trying to get that blade honed as beautifully as possible. So you are consciously pushing yourself. Whereas when you're on the line, even when we do training, when we're trying to do different drills for whether we're trying to work on speed or transitions or movement or leans or something, we're consciously aware of the 100% of the time trying to push ourselves to be better. Whereas when we're on the line and actually shooting, it's just focal survive mode.
That is a weird, like, because I remember we were doing that lean drill after Illinois sectionals, and I just couldn't get it. And the problem is we go after work at like 11, and I've already been up since 7, and I'm just done.
Yep.
Which, you know, whatever. But not an excuse.
Because you're a bitch.
Well, right back at you.
I don't know. I never lose my mental fortitude from being up that long.
Is there anything that you just can't do, or are you just perfect at
art.
everything all the
I'm
time?
terrible at art.
And conversing with people.
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh man, you should hear some shit people tell me at work. It's the best. I'm just like,
I would not be surprised.
it's funny because I'll tell people, I'm like, listen, nice guy. He's going to come off as a dickweed. And he is a dickweed. And they're like, he's not. And then they'll talk to you once. They'll talk to you twice. They'll talk to you 3 times. And they're like, can't fucking stand that guy. I'm like, look, you really just got to walk away from it. You literally have to take it at its absolute face value and not mind the
severe lack of emotion
and laughter that always follows everything. Because I don't know how to tell people, like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen you, like, much like the Nola Gay leaving the Japanese bay, and then the destruction you leave behind. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with this. Damn, it's so funny.
The fact that when I explain something to someone, I'm completely emotionally detached and I can't completely fathom that.
No. This was USPSA related a while back.
The fact that when I explain to someone that what I'm doing, I'm completely emotionally attached and don't care what they think about me.
Take it back 2 steps. What was it? It was something about. Oh no. Because you're perfect in every way. That's what
that too.
is.
Yeah.
Dickweed. Anyway, we were doing those lean drills, and like, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on, like, okay, this time basically there was on the right side, you'd lean, there was 3 steel targets, you'd have time to reload to go up to a small window and basically do an accelerator. That's what the target was. That's what the stage was. And I mean, you could obviously run to the window and shoot first, which I don't know if that'd be an option, but we set these things up that, like, you could shoot them a bunch of ways, but we purposely do them one way, so because we're trying to focus on something. So we did a hard lean right, and then between that reload, I couldn't. My feet were wrong, and so then it was like, you need to like load up your feet more and not take long.
And then your approach into the port was kind of super sloppy.
Then I'd go through and be like, okay, well, your transitions need to match how close your targets are. So if you have 3 targets that are, literally 3 yards away from you, there should be, I mean, it should sound like a machine gun going off. It should be.
Yeah, there's no time.
It should be, yours, like he had said before, like, oh, if I've got 7-yard targets, it's going to be 16 splits. Your splits, and I'm explaining this not to tell other people, just to tell other people. I'm explaining this so I can reiterate it to myself because I'm a dumbass. But then I'd focus on the speed of my splits, and then I'd be like, well, damn, I didn't. This wall is imaginary. I can see things. I can put my gun on target before I can shoot it, and I need to do that.
What you were concentrating on. You weren't necessarily focused. When I'm going through those drills, I've already got it mapped out in my mind. I'm concentrated before I go up and do them with that accelerator, which I was treating it as a decelerator because the first target I could see in that engagement was a far target. So I was walking in, shooting slow at a far target and accelerating through, whereas you were trying to shoot the close one and decelerate as you went back to the back target. And I told you, I was like, hold on, this is snow fence. Which is the first target you're going to see? It's the far target.
Which is funny because I watched one of your matches from Area 5, and you did the opposite on one of those, too.
I did do the opposite on one of those, but that was so that I could exit faster. That's a completely different situation. when you want to exit...
You, sir, are a liar.
When you want to exit faster, you want to shoot the far target and get closer, and it depends on where you are. But anyway...
So the whole point of this was to say that these training drills are extremely frustrating sometimes.
For many good reasons.
And they should be. And they should be like you trying to reload. You should get frustrated. Like, why can't I do this in a half second? Why can't I do this in a half second? It's a simple mechanical motion. Why can't I reload in a half second? Why can't I transition better? and that's that honing. That's that put, because like you had said, once you enter the actual
Thunderdome,
because you can't think about it. You really can't.
You don't have time.
And you know what's nice is when you get up to the line, your hands on your gun. You know, you've loaded your gun, you've put it back in your holster, and then you put your hands down. And I have this nice sense of relief of like, it's like because I know it's like nothing between the 2 seconds it's going to take him to set that buzzer off. Nothing I'm going to do is make me better or worse for this right now.
Yep.
So just do it. So that's what's nice about those matches for me. And even watching some of them when I do terrible. But
after that it is the purest form of problem solving at that point.
It really is. And, you know, like he had said, because I shoot more deliberately, I literally am like, it's not really a thought process, but there is something going on in my head of like, you know, like that stage I'm thinking of that had that hard lean with 3 steel targets that we tried to simulate. And I remember shooting 1, 2, and then hitting, and hearing the third ding of the steel, and then watching it move, turn and stop, and then move for some reason. And like, I don't like, I think it was a delay of like, am I sure that went down? Versus,
did I really just go 1 for 1 on all of those steel?
I did. I actually did. It really, when you show it to people that don't shoot at all, like, let alone USPSA, they're like, wow, you're a really good shot.
Well, that's
like,
the thing is when you put yourself in perspective, like, especially for the beginning this year for us, like, we've made so much progress and we're both like, we could be better. But when you show to someone who's never shot USPSA before, like, wow, you guys are like John Wick or some shit. We're like, yeah, we're okay.
We're literally okay. And that's what's funny too, because, you know, you talk about reloads. My reloads were damn smooth at Illinois, like Illinois sectional. Like I looked at him, I'm like, I don't think I fumbled, like you said, like 3 or 4 maybe, because I wasn't thinking about it.
And we shoot production, so on a 32 round field course, you're reloading at least 3 times. So there's like at least 35 reloads in a match.
Yeah, and I mean, exactly. I think that's why I like production, because it's really pushing all the aspects of like you really have to plan stages. You can't, like, not just the fact that you had to add the time in to reload your magazine, but you have less rounds. So, and they do that. They do these stages to where, and like I said, I think I'm getting better at stage planning, because by the end of it, I was like, it's like one of those puzzles that has one piece missing, or like my basement, when like you have one free space, and if you want to, like, oh, I want to make the picture of the tiger, you got to move it all into space. And once you get it locked in, you're like, okay, look, here's 3 targets, that's 6 shots, then I can reload, then there's 8 shots. It gives me I can miss 1 or 2 times, there's still 1 in the gun, next one's 3, next one's 6, and you're like, okay, this will work out, and I have a spare if I mess up.
Well, the thing about stage planning that I also learned is they gear it towards single stack. So you're only allowed 8 shots per engagement. So everyone's just like, fuck revolver, because revolver's stupid anyway. But you get 8 shots per engagement. So basically, if you're a single stack shooter, you have to be a sniper, because no one shoots single stack minor power factor. So you're going to have 8 rounds, 9 with 1 in the pipe. But you know there's a really good stage designer if they put 8 rounds in an engagement and there's like 3 or more pepper poppers at or mini poppers even at like 15 yards, because they know those production shooters, we want to go fast, but we really got to slow down and get those mini poppers, because if we don't, we're going to throw some mics and we're going to do a static reload and screw up the whole stage. So in a good stage plan, you figure out where you can hit those poppers from multiple locations, just in case you throw a bunch of mics, you can make them up somewhere else. And that's just, you don't know that unless you experience multiple matches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to hit. I'm honestly excited for the off season, because it's just going to be so cold that all you can do is dry fire. And I'll be excited because I think obviously we'll do some indoor stuff, but nothing crazy. I mean, does your place, do they?
Yeah, so they still do a monthly match, which I'm not even going to dry fire for
do
like 2
they do
months.
a weekly match?
Well, they still do Thursdays.
The whole year?
Yeah. But that's
How much is it for members?
5 American pesos,
How much is it for non-members?
20 American pesos.
That's
By the
almost
time
4
you
times
do-
as much.
By the time you do 3 of them, you might as well have been a member.
Touche.
But I guess to wrap this up, shooting USPSA with eBay mag holsters, a $30 Midway USPSA inside. It's got an inside belt and an outside belt. Midway USA brand, $30. A $50 outside the waistband concealed holster from Crossbreed, which honestly isn't a bad holster. I just would never use it for competition because you could get a much better holster. And a $250 Janik pistol. I am essentially a decent A-class shooter in 6 months' time.
It's not the gear, folks.
Yeah, no, it's not the
It
gear.
is all training. And I mean, I think there was a Stoger podcast when he was talking about, he was fucking around with some different guns, and they're like, well, you don't want to cross train. It's like, don't worry about it. Buy a gun, shoot it, an ass load.
Yep.
Or
When
maybe
you're
not.
starting out, buy one gun, and by the time you put 5,000 rounds through it, you'll know whether or not you can use it. For me, I definitely need a different gun because my hands are gigantic. But
I
for
can't
normal people,
Wait to see what Frankenstein gun that gets to put in your freaking hands.
if you buy a Glock 34 and put 5,000 rounds through it and you shoot production, you will be fine. You do not need anything fancier.
No, I mean, you'll be in with hopefully, 5 to 10 times more than that dry fire.
Yeah.
You'll definitely understand
I had to have dry fired my gun at least 25,000 times this year.
easily.
Which, I mean, I don't cock the gun every time. Like when I'm doing transition drills, I'll just tappy tap the dead trigger. But it had to have been at least that many times.
I think
Hour a week for 20 weeks.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, well, you probably do more than just dry fire, but transitioning and whatnot. But whatever.
Yeah. It's all under the envelope of dry fire.
I don't know. I actually am going to, after this, go watch us shoot our first training, knowing we were going to go into the Spartan 300. Because the Spartan 300 did not seem like it was that long ago. Is it June?
It was
June
like
1st.
It was like June 1st, May 30th.
Yeah, because we shot June 1st. It was a Saturday.
So June, July, August. That was only three and a half months ago.
And I feel the same weight. No. I feel like I can't objectively say that I'm better than I was, but I definitely understand the sport better.
You are much better. Well, and especially your confidence level has made you shoot much better too, because just getting the experience in was most of it. But I shot the Spartan 300 very well. I mean, I was 13th in production, I think, maybe. No, I was 9th. I was in top 10. I was 9th out of like 60 production shooters.
I don't remember that at all.
You were like 25th, right in the middle. 25th to 30th.
Pretty much.
Same as the Illinois sectional. You're like right in the middle.
I think the Spartan 300, there's a nice little gun community of people that truly think that they're warriors at heart when they go to the range. And I think that the Spartan 300 drew a certain threeper attitude.
And they were not good.
Bow-legged motherfuckers.
They were not good.
I mean, I remember there's a whole family of shooters. I didn't know they were family members. And the dad was shooting, like the patriarch of the
Grandpappy.
family. I was like, that guy sucks. Why is he here? Why would he pay that money? And then I found out he was doing it because the rest of his family's doing it. I'm like, the sport's awesome.
Yeah, this sport's awesome.
This is the weirdest, this is the weirdest sport I could have ever seen myself get into. And
it's by far the coolest.
I can't really think of anything else where I'm like, that isn't just combat. Where I'm like, this seems like not awesome, but not even practical. I know it's called practical shooting.
There's nothing practical about a 32
Absolutely
round field
not.
course. Nothing practical
It's
about
not
that.
practical, except if I throw that belt on, and I guess I'll be able to reload fast. I don't know. it's not really practical, but it's pretty damn awesome.
The thing about it is all the fundamentals that you have to master to be good at it are very much practical and applicable.
Oh, you could easily switch over. I mean, like my conceal gun, it's that little Glock 26, which apparently only only gayfers and small peenered men.
I like
shoot
it.
those.
I like the Glock 26. I don't like Glocks, and I like the Glock 26.
Yeah, but I can shoot that thing, and I shoot it, and you don't have the surface area, your hands, whatever. But you can compensate, and you're like, I have a what would you call it? Appendix carry, the castrating carry,
The junk carry, as it were.
and I have a holster for it, and I was drawn from it. I'm like, oh, this feels right. Like it's like I used to think about appendix carry and be like, I'm gonna blow off Wingus and the Ping Pong Boys.
Wingus and the Ping Pong Boys.
And but now it's like, oh, cool, yeah. You just don't put your finger in the trigger guard. You're pretty much good to go. But
So, Uncle Bugatti, if you could wrap up, give the folks at home a golden nugget from your 6 months experience of USPSA shooting, what would it be? Being a wonderful B-class production shooter that you are.
Practice the fundamentals more. Dry fire
A lot.
a lot. Practice simple things, and then videotape yourself. Maybe don't put it on YouTube. Videotape yourself.
Not until you're GM Grandmaster Extra Tactical 3 per
Don't
operator.
let anyone know that you make mistakes, and that people that are really good at things, like Kobe Bryant, was just born to play basketball. He didn't work at it at all.
Never. Not once.
Practice a lot, and practice the simple things. Do everything you can that doesn't involve actually shooting. That's probably going to make you better. And then just get out there and do it. Get out there and do it, and learn from people that know what they're doing.
Yep.
And don't take anything with too much of a. Don't take too much criticism to heart, because I remember going to shitty club matches and people being like, wow, you shoot pretty good. And I was like, oh, I've got this. I'm okay. And then you get versus somebody that knows what they're doing, and you're like, oh, I'm still pretty far behind. But just practice the simple things. And honestly, the rest of it will come, because now it's like, oh, I got to focus on footwork. I couldn't imagine 6 months ago I'd be like, oh, I can reload pretty decently, and I could pretty much hit what I point my freaking gun at if I'm paying attention.
That's 90% of the battle.
That's a funny concept to be like, oh, it's 30 yards away. It's like, if I paused, I can hit it. Like, what? No, you can't. Like, yeah, I can. It's not that hard.
Last night it was a plate rack at 25 yards, strong hand only.
Ooh, that's tough.
In 11 rounds, I got 4 of them, and I was like, fuck it, move on. I never would have dreamed of being able to hit one of those targets 6 months ago.
When you look at something so myopically, you're like, man, my footwork sucked. My transition sucked. My reload sucked. I had a couple alphas that was okay, but when you step back, you're like, 3 months ago, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yep.
And 3 months before that, I really had no idea what I was doing.
I didn't know how to grip the gun hard with my left hand.
I mean, yeah, just find people that know what they're doing and spend an appropriate amount of time on it, because if you never fired, like if you bought 100 rounds and shot 50 of them and then dry fired for 2 months and then shot the other 50, I'd be actually a fun project.
That would be interesting.
To have someone at gunpoint be like, all right, you're going to dry fire every day for 2 hours until you get this fucking perfectly.
Right.
That's what boot camp is.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I guess really figure out the fundamentals of pistol shooting, because shooting a pistol is way more difficult than a rifle or shotgun. Really, really focus on getting that left hand gripping tight, because that was something I had no idea was a thing until this year, and I had no idea what dry fire was until this year. Get your research down. Listen to that Ben Steger podcast, because you're going to learn way more there from experienced folks than you ever will.
don't have to buy his book if you listen to the podcast.
Right. it's just like real life. People surround themselves with people who are equal or lesser to them, so they're more comfortable. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You have got to go stick your dick in the dirt and get destroyed by master class guys and just ask them questions, because you're going to think you're annoying them, but everyone in this wonderful sport that we found want to help you. Like, I've met one person who doesn't want to help me, and 99 other people that I asked, they wanted to help me every step of the way.
That's a good thing to, I mean, honestly, I feel like this is a sport. If you can get, honestly, the first part of it, safety, if you can be safe and not really like piss anybody off with that, everyone will, like, I would be happy to tell you my opinion on something, but nobody wants to hear it.
Everyone wants to see you succeed. And honestly, the cool thing about USPSA, especially with the group that I shoot with, they're all boomers. They've all been doing this for a number of years. They've seen everything, and all they want to do is riff and tell you that you're garbage. But when you turn your back and you've got your electronic hearing protection cranked up so you can hear them talk because they're deaf and loud, they're talking great things about you behind your back, which is the best friend to have. If they talk shit to your face and talk great behind your back, you need to keep those people close because they want to see you succeed. And that's what I found in this club is these guys will spit fire to your face, tell you how dog shit you are, how bad that run was. But behind your back, they're talking about how much progress you've made, and it's awesome. It's the only community that I've found that I've felt that I actually fit in.
Like, there is that. I feel like there's that sentiment of even people that you're competitive with, because there was a very brief time me and you were competitive, and then you just jumped ahead, dick, and and
Dry fire, bro.
But yeah, seriously, it's my own fault. But people that are like, I've ran across people that are about my skill level, and when they shoot, and you're like, I want to beat them. But when you watch someone do something with such grace like that, and you're like, damn, that was good. And you're like, you know, because it's kind of like, it's just like wrestling or golf. It's a super individual sport.
Yep.
And, you know, it's much like golf. You go out, you know, you want to win, but you see someone drive the ball like to the moon and back, and you're like, damn, that was a freaking amazing drive.
It is the most healthy form of competition, because when you see a guy that you're directly competing with, I did this at Area 5 with like the Marine guys, because they're all at my level of shooting. I was like, I want this guy to fumble a reload, and I want him to shoot deltas, and fuck this guy. And then the dude gets 29 alphas and 3 Charlies and does it in like 20 seconds. You just go up to dude like, dude, nice run. Give him a fist bump. Hey, thanks, man. And it's over. Transaction's done.
Yeah.
Everything's over. You're going to the next stage. It was awesome. You want to see each other fail until they get the run done. And if they do poorly, you want to be like, hey, man, what went wrong? And just talk it through with them so that they get better. And if they scorch that bitch to the ground, you're like, dude, nice run. You know,
yeah.
We're always in constant
credit's due.
We're in constant competition with each other. We want to tear each other's throats out. But once the run's over, you always want to see them do better. Or if they did well, you want to let them know, like, hey, dude, you burned that bitch to the ground.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that can be a pretty decent reflection on society and how shitty it is now. And I honestly think it's because of a lack of competition. Of like,
we're trying to make everything easy on everyone and sing kumbaya, and without a healthy competition to really level the playing field, there's just a lack of sincerity when it comes to handing someone something versus giving someone something they earned.
Dude, I know. That jiu-jitsu tournament, I got second because there was 2 people, and they gave me a medal. I'm like, I'm not taking this medal.
I do not want this.
My teammates were like, no, you have to take it. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And they're like, all right, let's pose for a picture. Put your medal on. I'm like, I'm not. I'm absolutely not posing for a picture with a silver medal.
Not gonna happen.
Like, no, it's ridiculous. But look, get out there, shoot, practice a lot. Just honestly, just go to matches. Just go to matches. I mean, look, you know, early on, you might get DQ'd. It's gonna feel like shit. I was close. I don't think I could have contested it if he would have thrown me out at
Like I said, even having footage of it, I couldn't have told you DQ'd or not.
So basically, look, just be safe. Be safe is the first part. The second part is go out there and compete, because all you're going to do is get better. And every single time you go, it's going to be like, because I remember we went to the Spartan 300 and it was a lot. It was a lot taken. It was like, oh, there's people watching me, and then this, that. Fuck it. Doesn't matter. Just go. You'll get to a point where it becomes comfortable, and then you can go from that first awkward stage to now you're, oh, this is what I practice. Let's do it.
Yep.
And when you watch yourself get better, because I don't think I've ever I still think that I'm as bad as when I started, but like statistically that can't be if you look back at the matches I shot. And it's like, oh, cool. That's nice to know. That's nice to know that even though I'm so hard on myself, you can take it up. And you don't have to be the best either. You can just go nice and slow to start off, which is what I probably should have done. And we'll probably have to, because, you practice fast, but you practice fast to go to a match. But, like, if you can, I don't know, I'm a very firm believer in learning something perfectly slow and then slowly incrementing yourself up to where you need to be. And that might not work for everybody. But that's how, that's how I learned guitar. That's how I learned pretty much anything that includes muscle memory. And
that's really the gold nugget is everyone learns differently, and the best teacher you can have is yourself.
Yeah.
So if you take multiple senseis and gather what information you can, the best thing you can do is teach yourself how to do this, because like anything in life, no one's going to look out for you until you look out for yourself.
And then people will ask you to help them. But God, work has been terrible. Dude, I do stuff at work so everyone comes to me for help.
Welcome to being useful.
But yes, hone your skills. Much like the Power Rangers, each individual Power Ranger is a different skill set that you have. And then at the match, you combine to be the Megazord that will. The look on your face right now is terrible.
I don't hate this analogy, but could you fucking not?
Practice.
Put your ego in your back pocket. Learn as much as you can, and don't forget to suck it up and suck my.